love to know who's in this space, as we're going to spend an hour and a half together, and it's a lot of us, so we could just go around, say our name, and a plant that you love. Sorry, a plant that loves you and a plant that you love. So the plant that loves you is the plant that is always showing up when you need them, and a plant that you love could be a plant that also shows up for you, but you're curious to know more about. My name is Antonia. I use she and they pronouns. A plant that I feel loves me is plantain, not the banana, but the herb that is growing actually right here. And this plant grows now pretty much all over the world, and we'll talk more about this plant. And so this is a plant that I love and a plant that loves me.
I love grapes, and they don't like me so much. I was actually picking grapes this morning with my snips, but they've all started to hybridize, and it's very strange. You have grapes which have nothing to do with each other. They're producing entirely new grapes with new properties.
Cool.
My name is Angela. The plant that loves me, I think, is rosemary. The plant that I love is lavender.
Thank you. That was very nice.
My name is Armin. I love garlic. And I think the plantains love me too, because my lawn is made of mostly plantains.
I'm Lori. I love fig trees.
Okay.
That's it.
Who loves you?
I don't know. I have a whole huge room full of house plants, and I think they all love me. My babies.
My name is Jenny, and I love aloe. I grew up with aloes, and they've helped me with little burns and injuries throughout my life.
My name's Kathy, and I like lavender. And I think lavender likes me. I have this outside my door, a huge plant that's just thrived this year, so it's been fun. The bees love it, and it's walk by and kind of brush by it and smell it.
So lovely. Go to you.
My name is Ryan. I go with he, they pronouns. I'm a fellow at the Thomas Cole National Historic Site, and I'm researching the history of labor on the site.
Wow.
And I would say apple tree. Apple tree. It's actually historic to the Cole site. They grew apples.
Thank you.
My name is Brandon. I'm also a Cole Fellow. I should come check it out sometime. I think a plant that likes me, and I like it very much, is I think it's called the Queen Mary's lace. Or
Queen Anne's lace?
Yeah. It's so beautiful. It's so pretty. I want to get to know the elderberry tree.
The elderberry?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
My name is Pamela, and I love oak trees. And the plant that loves me is self-heal.
Hi, I'm Rita. I love willow trees. I also love ghost pipe because they have a really interesting relationship with fungi, and anytime you find ghost pipe, you will find some sort of fungi. And there's not a lot of information on rather if that is a symbiotic relationship or more of a parasitic relationship. So I think that's pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Scott. I think the oak trees around my house love me too. I love sweetgrass and the smell of sweetgrass.
My name is Gene. My wife, Linda, grows many plants, and two that I've become very fond of lately are tomatoes and hot chili peppers, because I've made the most delicious Bloody Marys. Things. I had a couple of things that weren't in our garden, but I loved it. And, I think it loves me.
I'm Linda, and I love white pine, and it just smells so beautiful. And when I am least aware of things, and I just get a whiff of that, I just feel like I'm in heaven. And of course, plantain really loves me too. But there's another plant also that pops up just when I'm thinking I'm not looking for it, which is motherwort.
Mm-hmm.
And it's medicinal, so I'm going to learn more about motherwort.
My name is Lakshmi, and I think a plant that loves me that I love back is mint. My name's Carolyn. I think white pine is mine as well. I love it. It loves me. A lot of fond memories throughout my life of white pine.
Hi, I'm Renee. I love big trees, and unfortunately, a plant that loves me is poison ivy.
I'm Zoe. I like tomato plants, and I think they like me too.
My name's Karen. I love milkweed. I love to watch the entire life cycle of the monarch happening as a pet in my yard that I don't have to take care of. And I think the plant that loves me is wild strawberries, which are all over where I live.
Hi, my name's Nelson Stern. It's a difficult question. As I just retired, I ran a botanical garden on the land.
Oh.
So I have 1,000 plants I love, but Abies procera, the Nico fir, the blue Spanish fir, more of a fir guy, conifer guy.
Nice.
So a lot of plants.
A lot of plants, you know. It's hard when you love so many.
On Long Island, the property is actually fenced. So 691 acres. Yep.
Hi, I'm Sebastian. I'm Antonia's brother, first of all. And I also felt it was a really hard question. Pretty much all the plants I thought about fell into both categories. But to choose, I chose Tulsi, that I love, and Sassafras, that loves me.
Thank you everyone for sharing, and I love hearing this because I also get to learn a little bit about your relationship to plants, and I'm hearing that many of you know a lot about plants, which is super exciting because I don't know everything. Nobody here knows everything about plants, so I want to invite this to also be a space where we get to share what we know and continue to inspire our ever-learning journey about plants and everything that exists in life, right? So shall we start walking, and then we'll a little bit to explain how our time is going to flow. I'm less of a plant person that's going to just walk around and point at this and this and that and say this is called this and this is called that, but really want to spend time with each of the plants and really get to know those plants. For me, what's really important is to build relationships with plants that are reciprocal, and which is also really important to understanding, being able to recognize the plant, right? So poison ivy every plant I think is important to really know how to be able to recognize, but especially plants that you might be allergic to, or if you are curious to harvest, that you are 1000% sure that you're harvesting the correct plant. But beyond the harvest, it's how do we, as people that are living in this land, on this land, how do we begin to see these plants as our neighbors and our kin, and not just something to harvest or a commodity, but beings that have been on this land before we were here, right? And not just what can this plant do for me, but what can I do for this plant to ensure their regeneration. So that's kind of the premise that I'm coming into in terms of how I relate to plants and how I like to teach about plants. So at the end of the day, we might only have met 5 new plants. Some of those plants you may have already known, but I can guarantee that you're going to learn something new about that tree. So you might learn something new about white pine that you didn't see before. So my invitation today is, many of us, I'm sure, in our life are rushing or moving around all the time from point A to point B. So the invitation today is to really slow down and see things from a new perspective and different perspectives. We'll start with this plant in my exercise of different perspectives. So we're going to start from over here and just observing what we see. It could be the obvious. the colors. I'm noticing berries, but we're just naming what we see. So whatever you're noticing, you can speak that out loud. So we're noticing some new growth.
Right there.
Multiple colors. Yeah.
Looks like mini grapes.
Looks like mini grapes. Now we're getting much closer and just, again, seeing, what are we noticing now from this perspective?
It smells lovely.
Smells lovely. Soft.
It's in tree pose.
There's a bird's nest in there.
Ooh. So shelter.
The berries are not ripe yet. Probably ready for that.
Oh, yeah. So protective. Juniper has been used as a food preservative as well, and I think of like what are the plants in our bioregions that we can use as alternatives, like say to black pepper, for example. Like this could be a really nice substitute or additive, like you were saying in cooking, and thinking about it being supportive for bitters and like fatty food, and definitely see this plant. You could just spend the whole hour and a half in like one little square.
What you'll see is we'll be going through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
There's a beautiful moment where there's a branch road, and then you just look up and it's like a cathedral.
Wow.
Then you keep going around, and then it opens up to the first big view. So,
amazing.
And there's a huge meadow.
Well, look at this plant over here.
I let it go in my garden and the bees love it.
And did anything happen to you?
I haven't touched it.
So it's actually a myth that goldenrod creates allergies. It's actually ragweed because this isn't open air, wind pollinated. So it's the ragweed that flowers at the same time as the goldenrod. So this is a completely safe plant to touch and to be around. And this is an indigenous plant to these lands. You can know the name of a plant, but unless you really are paying close attention to the subtleties and their patterns and the way that they grow, you'll forget their name. So even if we think we know this plant, I want us to do the same practice that we did with the juniper of just describing what we're seeing. And there's a few different species, so that's also really fun to look at. A little bit hairy. The leaves are a little bit hairy. Mm-hmm. So it's flowering from the top down. Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite things to do, especially when I have time, is really get close to the plant. Like you're an insect pollinating that flower. Like get really, really close to them, because you'll see things that you just won't see even from a foot away. Goldenrod is in the Asteraceae family. So what you're seeing as this might be one flower is actually made up of many flowers. Let's stand back a little bit. Let's get close, because you're receiving a lot of information from moving slow in your relationship with the plants.
Makes one of the best tasting honeys and also one of the best smelling honeys.
Mm.
Walk past a beehive this time of year,
Mm-hmm.
what you'll be smelling is golden.
Yes. And another way that you can also make medicine is infusing the flowers in honey. So the honey is going to extract the medicinal properties of the goldenrod. So you could use goldenrod honey to extract the medicine that's in the flowers, and just take that as a spoonful of honey that's been infusing in the goldenrod for allergies, for example. And another native plant. Yeah, this is ragweed. A lot of people might mistake them for mugwort because of the leaf shape. Wow. Ooh, this is a beautiful patch over here. We're gonna look at this patch over here. So fresh, yeah. We're looking at this one over here.
Like that spring,
narrow leaf.
Spring kind of green.
Spring kind of green. So you're saying like moist, fresh?
Yeah, just even like the hue of the green, right?
So this is a plant that you should leave in your garden. This is like such a perfect. You don't need to do much maintenance to them. They'll grow, and it's such a great first aid. And think of this plant as a beautiful metaphor for adapting to different landscapes, but also to like historically, this plant, one of the names for it is white man's foot.
Right.
But indigenous people that I've learned throughout my travels and learning from North America to South America has been adapted into their medicine. So where our family is from in Chile, we call this plant yanten, and it's a really important medicine. My grandma would always make a tea with this plant for lungs, for digestion. You can use the roots, the leaves, the seeds. The seeds are really similar to psyllium husk, so if you're really constipated, you can make a tea with the seeds and be. Right here. No, this is narrow leaf plantain. So there's two species. Someone mentioned poison ivy. I love plantain for poison ivy because of the moistening quality to it. You know, if like you're starting to get pus or it's really itchy, you can do a combination either of just like a bunch of fresh plantain. I'm seeing more and more plantain be used in like oil for the skin. So
the broad leaf is pretty much the same.
and it's the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I always tell people keep the plantain, and it's a super safe plant. Like all kids should know plantain, and because it grows everywhere. Look, this is a beautiful view, and there's a beautiful plant over here. This is the one we're looking at. Does anyone not know this plant? We're not going to say the name yet. It totally does. I was going to say, like, this kind of reminds me like of a tree or like a bay laurel, something, right?
The leaves are opposite, but alternate
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah, which is kind of interesting across.
Exactly.
They go opposite and they keep turning.
Do folks see that?
Noticed before.
So they're opposite, meaning they're growing from the same point on the stem, but they're alternating as they go down the plant. So what do folks feel when you touch it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, smooth on top, fuzzy on the bottom. Yeah, if other folks want to touch that plant. If you were to rip a little bit of the leaf, some milk starts coming out off of it. You see that? And I've never personally tried this myself because I have never had a wart, but people say that traditionally it's been used to remove warts. This is milkweed, and hopefully we'll find a milkweed that has gone to seed so we can see the seeds. It kind of has like a fungus in it. But this is the milkweed pod. They've looked better. Yeah, no, it's definitely rotted. Maybe all the rain, I was going to say.
They're pink and white. Tiny, tiny little flowers.
And I don't know if you heard before, I was saying that the goldenrod is in the aster family. So these are all relatives as well, and the way that they grow are similar in that you're seeing this as the flower, right? But everything in here is actually the flower. Each of these are a little flower. So does anyone not know what poison ivy looks like? But here is another example of poison ivy. And like sometimes they will climb up a tree and their vine will be so thick and they'll branch out. You think it's the branch of a tree, but it's poison ivy. So another great example of a plant that you really need to spend a lot of time with in order to be able to identify well, because they can look different depending on, they're shape-shifting. What I've learned from different teachers, because this is also a native plant, that poison ivy is also doing a lot of restoration work, and it's growing in places where the soil has been disturbed. So a lot of teachers, indigenous teachers, have shared this as kind of a protective plant, like a plant that's saying, let this be. And also the vine, you'll notice, will start having little hairs, like little tendrils that come off of it. Do you see that? Another really important and beautiful plant, not native, but there actually are a lot of Artemisia plants in the United States on Turtle Island that are native, like a sagebrush in the southwest, Artemisia tridentata, I believe is the name. That's in the Artemisia family. So another thing about starting to learn about the plants and different families is you start noticing these different patterns. So if you go to another bioregion or you go to another country, you'll be like, oh, this reminds me of, you know, maybe it's this plant in the Artemisia family or in the Aster family or in the oak family. And that's a really fun way of seeing how plants are interrelated, but also seeing what plants might be medicine, right? Or this plant might have similar qualities. So I entertain myself a lot with that, being like, oh, this is yes. So this plant has been used for forever in Asia, especially in Chinese traditional medicine, for moving blood, in acupuncture, this plant is used to create moxa or moxibustion. So this is burned and passed through meridians, so different energy points along the body, and that helps to move blood. So to increase blood flow and detoxification. Also a great bitter. Traditionally, it's also been used as an abortifacient in high dosage. So, does anyone know the common name of this plant?
Is it wormwood?
No, but it's also in the Artemisia family.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Absinthe, Artemisia absinthium. Okay. But does anyone know this one?
Mugwort.
Yeah, mugwort.
Oh.
Yes, mugwort. Forgetting
So
now
did you say it's not
Vulgaris.
native?
Vulgaris. It's not native. Mm-mm. No, but has anyone been to the Southwest here, like New Mexico? Yeah. You know the sagebrush?
Yes.
So that's an Artemisia tridentata. Really? Yeah. So not white sage, but like the much smaller leaved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the Artemisia family. Mm-hmm. So I invite you to smell this plant. Can find one. So a lot of people say that plants are invasive, right? But again, I think it depends how you're relating to them, right? You could do so much with mugwort. You could make a bath with mugwort to help relieve stress and tension. It's great to use topically as well. You could dry it, and you can make your own bundle and like help to move blood flow. Also, pollinators love this plant. Yeah, and I think about this plant, right? The sagebrush in the Southwest, and just the over harvesting of white sage and palo santo and different plants that people use for cleansing spaces. Like, what are the plants growing in our bioregion that are growing in abundance and that are even being considered invasive that we can use for the same purpose, right? And that's part of thinking of how are we learning and becoming more part of the land that we live in, right? And learning not just the medicinal plants, but also the birds. Like, what are the languages that they're speaking? My brother and I were speaking about this on the car ride over, but imagining what this landscape looked like 500 years ago is completely different from what we're seeing now. Like, has anyone been to the redwoods here? Yeah. Okay. So it totally changes your concept of what a tree is. And that's what these forests looked like before. They were ginormous trees, like 5 times these trees. Like almost this jungle, mossy, fern-like wonderland. But, you know, these forests are maybe 100 years old or less. But how do we become in tune with what is still living now? Because we're living in a time of climate crisis where species are going extinct every single day. And we said something of, about the sound. What did he say?
Sounds of life.
Yeah, like the sounds of life are disappearing. Imagine what the forest sounded like 500 years ago, or what it'll sound like 10 years from now. Right? So I encourage us as like we go back into our homes and our life, like how do we become in our daily life more intimate with the plants around us, but also the birds, the insects, because we're sharing home with them, right? It's not just us. Thank you everyone for coming. It's been such a treat to be able to be with the plants with everyone today and to get to learn more about the plants and deepen an intimacy and attune to the land that is around us. And I really hope that everything that we've learned today is going to inspire each and every one of you to keep learning about the plants and yourselves in relationship to them and the land that we reside, that we live on, that we care for.